Time, weather, and
Welcome to another episode of the Civil Society Podcast. I am Josh Durr, joined as usual by Rob Holtzinger across the console for me.
Hello.
Drew Thomas to his right.
Andrew, what's up?
And to my left, the always lovely Odesala Ogunele.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gotta sing when you say it. I learned that last week. If you don't know what that's about, listen to last week's. Catch up, people.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start off. We're gonna hit the ground running today. We will be. Oh, sweet! Speaking of hitting the ground running, I set a nice little alarm to remind myself that I needed to bring something to the show today, and that was Rob is now obsessed with Beyonce, and he could not have been more excited to tell me that last night at the bar.
Nice.
Yeah, that he bought Lemonade,
Ooh.
right?
Yep.
And he's been listening to it nonstop.
Bravo.
I got it right before I went on vacation like a month ago. I was like, I need to kill time on the plane. I've heard a ton of shit about this. Hey, wait a minute. I'll download and I'll listen to it. I listened to it on maybe like on the plane to Costa Rica, and oh my god,
yeah.
it's goddamn amazing.
I'm sure.
Have you listened to it?
Yes.
Have you
Okay.
seen the actual
No, when I downloaded it came with the movie. I haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
movie's great?
Oh my god, I can't wait.
What is your favorite song?
Oh fuck.
If you had top 3.
Formation.
Actually, I don't know what the names of the songs.
Gotta be formation.
Come on.
That's fair. That's a good point.
That actually, I think, is why you are taking some of the positions politically that you're taking, is because you are currently obsessed with Queen Bee. All right?
That's true.
Release your inner
I know the lingo. I'm down.
Absolutely.
I'm down with the Beyonce.
Do you have hot sauce in your bag?
I certainly do.
Thank you, Josh, for letting me taste something.
Hell yeah. That's what we bring to the table today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I'm watching the phone pretty close right now. We're actually going to have someone calling in today, a member of the alt-right, self-proclaimed. I went on Facebook looking for someone, and through some good detective work, through a family member of mine, we were able to track this guy down. And so hopefully he'll call in. If not, we'll move on to other things. But I'll be watching the phone, so we may be taking a phone call here pretty shortly. And so we'll get his opinions on everything, on maybe the Republican camp out here in Philadelphia this weekend, which is causing all kinds of havoc for traffic if you're in the neighborhood. And then also the Women's March. I'd like to hear what he has to say about that one.
Oh boy.
I'm sure he really enjoyed those pink hats as much as Addie did.
Oh yeah.
I know you were a fan of those. What did you think about being a woman? The Women's March. Were you happy with the way that it went off, or what?
I have very conflicted emotions about the Women's March.
Okay.
I take the stance with a lot of other women, especially women of color, who did not go to the march, which is that it wasn't very intersectional. It started to become a lot more so towards the day of the march itself. But I feel like when they removed the topic of fighting and marching for sex workers is a big one. They were tailoring the march for people, to placate people who usually don't come out to these things, so that they have more people come out. The fact that they had those hats, which, yes, Trump talked about grabbing them by the pussy, but they're also women, people who identify as women who don't have vaginas, who don't have these things, and you're talking about vaginas and pussies and shit like that, and have ovaries everywhere. Then it's like
excluding a whole group of people.
Exactly, when it's really supposed to be for every single woman. And also, where were all these people once again when all these people were getting shot, killed, all the shit, but now you're standing here and you're like, oh yeah, the march is great, this is wonderful, oh my god. And then
So you agree that it's like a one of them WGS thing?
yeah, I think the
WWGS.
Yeah, white girl shit.
yeah,
okay.
it is. It really is.
We're learning new phrases every week. I love it.
I think
that will
that-
be on the vocabulary test next week.
I think that it had a lot of great intentions and a great start for people who want to become more politically active.
Yeah.
But I also think that
They were out there just to get the picture.
Just to
post
get
them on
pictures.
Instagram.
A lot of them are just, they're
Go to
they're
Africa,
there.
go to
Yeah.
Jamaica.
The
Like,
hash-
I'm
the ha-
helping these little poor black people. Look at me.
It's that hashtag activism.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe on a level.
I mean, I also heard from people who were at the march in Washington, specifically Francesca Lee, who did the video "Ship White Girl Say to Black Girl." It's like the very first one.
Okay.
That's her. She's a really great activist and feminist. She said that people were talking over mothers of the movement, which are the mothers of the young boys who were shot and killed and things like that.
Oh, wow.
People were shouting over them like, let's march, let's march, let's march. And they were and then they also had, who else? Scarlett Johansson.
Oh boy.
And Scarlett Johansson is in a new, what's the name of that movie? It's coming out, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
And they were going to make her look more Asian instead of actually getting an Asian actress. And then on top of that, they also have Madonna, who called her son the N-word.
Ooh, yeah.
They were getting problematic white people to come up there and talk about intersectionally marching against these things that we're all pissed off about. Like,
Right.
why are you going to have those people? Why are you going to remove these topics from the march?
Right.
Let's do better.
Right.
The march, great start, but
Absolutely.
let's do better.
Absolutely.
Like right now, it's kind of all over the place, and
And that's why I love what Angela Peoples did when she took that picture that went viral.
yeah,
It's a beautiful photograph.
it's wonderful.
Okay, so the Angela Peoples photograph, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, Google it. It is a powerful picture. It's a black woman holding a sign.
Sucking a damn lollipop. Like I'm here. I've been here.
And her sign says, "Don't forget, white women voted for Trump." And she's standing directly in front of some white girls who are standing up on a wall or something,
Taking selfies.
taking selfies and playing on their phones.
And Capitol
So,
buildings in the background.
Yeah, it's a very powerful photo, and that leads me to my question for you that I've been waiting since Saturday to ask you. Do you believe that there was systemic whitewashing of the Women's March?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
In that it might not have been a march for all women. You feel like it was a bunch of white women specifically marching for themselves?
Yeah.
WGS, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So
Yes.
My-
If it was a lot more intersectional, if everyone was marching for each other, there would have been a lot more diversity in the crowds everywhere.
But doesn't that fall on the groups that didn't show? Because it wasn't like it was a closed
Black
event.
people have always been there to support white people.
Yeah.
In Hillary Clinton, it was
Whether they wanted to or not.
Exactly. It was a good majority of black people, Asian people,
Yeah.
Hispanic people
Yeah.
came out and voted for Hillary Clinton. Like, hey, I don't really like her,
Yeah.
but I will actually take what they would do for everyone over this man who is going to crush everything in our families and where we come from. We're like, we got you. But then 53% of white women
Didn't.
voted for Trump?
Bars.
Like, and now why is it always up to the people, to us,
Yeah.
to always do things, to always set things up for everyone else? No, fuck this shit. Like, it's
Preach.
your
Ooh.
turn to come out
Preach.
and fucking fight for us and march for us when we've been there for you forever.
And you know,
Wow.
what's funny? My mom
Always.
my mom is still giving me shit for not voting for Hillary. So you're right. I mean, it's dead up, dead
Yeah.
straight.
Who did you vote for?
I wrote in Bernie Sanders.
Oh, that's right. Okay. You did mention that last week.
Yeah.
And then I think you went on to mention how Bernie Sanders should have been in Brokeback Mountain.
Something.
That was a comment.
It leads there somewhere. Yeah.
It's just the love for Brokeback. I'm sorry, for Bernie Sanders is very, very huge.
But so my question though is, in not showing up, the minorities who didn't show up, or people of color,
Sure.
if that's the more acceptable terminology, you really don't feel that it was on them to sort of become a bigger part of it and take back that section of the march itself?
No, because we have other ways. We're always plotting. We've always been planning on different ways of fighting against all this bullshit that's happening right now.
That's facts.
We can have other types of march, and it's not just even people of color. It's
Yeah.
LGBTQ people who also weren't really represented in that march.
Facts.
People who are disabled who weren't actually able to be there. There's so many people who were left out of the march, and I feel like everyone right now, and I've had many discussions with a lot of friends. We are all taking different ways and different avenues of fighting against, the shit that's happening right now.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be that we have to be there to march.
Because I have people in my life who did go down to DC, who did march, who felt like there was a visible representation of the discontent with the current political system.
Sure.
And that many people in one place holding signs, doing what they were doing.
It's a powerful feeling.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they really felt like we made a statement. Whether or not that statement gets heard or the powers that be act on that statement, we made it.
Yeah.
We were there, and things happened. A Nazi got punched. Whatever it was, but they felt.
I should be laughing, but
Oh yes,
No, you
Yeah, wait, why
should.
not?
I mean, I'm not about violence, but I mean,
No, that bitch deserves to be punched in the face.
I mean, a lot of people deserve to get punched in the face, but should we actually do it?
Right.
I'm just saying.
In the case
That's
of
fair.
activism and fighting against all the stuff, sometimes it takes a little bit of violence to get shit done.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just basically saying.
That's revolutionary.
Well,
She
I
has
mean,
the
what are-
look on her face right now. But my
Stop scaring the white people.
Oh, fuck.
No, keep scaring the white people.
but for me, it comes back to the march, and I'm really trying to grasp I've watched a couple videos on YouTube and a couple read a couple news articles and stuff about the whitewashing of the march.
Yeah.
Because to me, I didn't see that. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because I'm not looking for it. Maybe it's because I don't experience that stuff. And this is one of the things that even in just this being the third episode of this podcast, I'm slowly learning to see things in a different filter. And maybe that's one that I have to open my eyes to.
Well, I mean, to be fair to you, I mean, it's not necessary or related to your survival. I mean, when this Nubian goddess was talking about how we do things or we rally together and we do, it's like it's in the historical context, like we did that to survive.
Right.
Whether it's through the church, whether it's through grassroots organizers, whether it's the Black Panther Party, we do these things in order for us to mobilize and be able to take care of one another.
Do you think that there may be whitewashing or that the message maybe gets a little bit convoluted at some of these bigger marches because people see things that maybe happen in Ferguson or Baltimore?
No.
And they say you don't think that plays a factor where they go, you know what, we're gonna get Madonna up there and we're gonna put these people sort of out in the front.
When they brought Madonna up there, I was just like, you guys really didn't work hard to get people.
Well, and that's it in a nutshell.
Not even just like people, just like
Old
there are
Madge.
so many white women who
Yeah.
are doing shit for everybody,
Yeah.
who are out there doing shit, and you chose to bring Madonna with her fucking. She have a ukulele or some shit and singing like.
This is the thing. Like I think with the Madonna thing, like I guess she represents white girl feminism, like being sexually out of the conservativeness back in the 80s and early 90s.
Right.
But my going to my point is that like back in the 90s, we had the Million Black Man March with Farrakhan, and there was no way that could get whitewashed.
Right.
Even though there was few white people there to support.
Do you think that it'll be necessary to have maybe a woman of color march? Do you think that
That has happened.
Yeah,
You
I
think-
think actually the march marked like the 20th or the 30th year for the women march. Actually,
Yeah.
same
So-
place in DC.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps heal the divide, or do you think that plays against it and pulls people a little bit farther apart?
Well, see, this is the thing.
Because
I got to say this, Josh.
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
when we march, it's all inclusive. Normally, it's just
Yeah.
at the nature of it, because we're just about all love,
Yeah.
all survival. Whereas when like let's say like a Klan rally or something, or
My
white,
march.
or white pride, it's like with white pride, it's like, well, we're here, we're dominant, this is us. Maybe you can get in here or something like that. It ain't. It's not the
But-
same. Doesn't have the same traits or whatever.
But the women's march didn't have the white label on it. You know what I mean? Like
Well-
it wasn't like, hey, this is the white lady march. Come on down. We're marching for white rights today. It was a women's march.
It was a women's march
and I'm
that
really-
had
I'm just-
basic bullet points of this is what we're marching for,
Yeah.
and didn't necessarily, I feel, make everyone feel included.
I mean,
Okay.
ultimately, it seemed as though we're mad because Hillary didn't become president.
I know that.
and that was the theme.
All right.
You have to have points that make
That's
people
a
feel-
very fair point, man.
make people feel
I felt that way
comfortable.
too. Yeah. But I did see, elements of Black Lives Matter. So BLM was there.
Okay.
I know that there were plenty of LGBTQ supporters there and people from that community, and I as in my worldview paradigm,
We got
right?
you.
As a white man, like watching it, it seemed like it was a pretty diverse, well represented crowd.
Yeah, and from my perspective, like my friend went,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, it was cool, but I
Yeah.
did not feel safe.
We don't have the,
Really?
You don't have
Really?
you don't have the antennas. I mean, like
Exactly.
we're forced to do that. It's like we
Yeah, I
walk
think-
down the street, we understand the demographic, and we have to be socially and consciously aware of what's around us.
I think
Okay.
that's probably why it didn't seem that way to you and I guess me as well, because we're not looking for it. It's not
Yeah.
something that we ever have to worry about or look at or look for.
That's fair. But wouldn't it be safe to say, and I'm sure I'm going to catch shit for this online or wherever and people who listen, but there are times where I have to play devil's advocate just to keep a conversation
Please do.
interesting
Please
and
do.
moving forward.
Sure.
So I would say that black people make up 12 to 13% of the population in America. So statistically, shouldn't it be okay if they only make up 12 to 13% of the people at a women's march, right?
And I mean, right now, I'm not even just talking about just black people. I'm talking
Yeah.
about people of color in general.
Okay.
Remember the
So,
inclusiveness.
yeah. So all the brown people, like a good chunk of brown people, like were like, nope, this does not look like it's for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be there. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I think it's funny because
Because brown people, like, they automatically know. There's this really funny a part in the show Blackish on ABC
Nice.
where they are watching TV and you're like, oh, a terrorist just shot up a movie store. Not black, not black, not black. They're like, no black, not black, not black. I mean, and that's something everyone, not just even black people, Hispanic people, Middle Eastern people, everyone's just like
Well,
on
how-
the same wavelength because if you just look at anyone, it's just like,
how do you
You're
think
bad.
that I feel when I hear there's been a school shooting? I'm at home going, not white, not white, not white, not white.
See, but I'm doing the opposite, and I don't want to take this and be like, oh, I'm the white hero here.
No.
But I do the same thing.
Rob is the supreme white ally.
Yeah. He's the ally Jesus.
Oh Jesus.
Ally Jesus.
No, but like anytime something bad happens, I'm hoping it's a white guy, because why not? Because
Defend your race, man. You racial cuck.
oh, God.
I don't like that at all. No, because I feel like if it is a person of color that commits some act against humanity, whatever, a terrorist attack, shoots up a school, whatever, shit's already bad enough for people of color. It doesn't need to keep going in that direction. It doesn't need this one person doing that, because one person of color that shoots up a school, you've got millions of white people that are going to be like, oh, all white people are, or rather all people of color are bad.
Exactly.
And they will take, if it's a Muslim, they will take, or anyone wearing a hijab or anything,
Yeah.
even a dark guy with a beard,
Yeah.
Yep.
they will take that and be like, oh, well,
I like
bomb the shit out of Iraq, bomb the shit out of Afghanistan,
I like
and
Jesus.
just they'll take it and run.
you touch upon a really good point. I mean, that's a aspect of white privilege right there, to have that lazy thinking. I mean, because if a white dude goes around shooting up movie theaters, schools, and whatnot,
He had mental health problems.
what's wrong with him?
What's going on?
Yeah, he
Let's
was
study this
a
person.
good student.
Let's understand what set him off.
They couldn't believe that he did this.
And that's the
He had
luxury.
such a great childhood.
We bought him everything. He had all the breaks, and that goes into white privilege, because ultimately you can write off a race because of what one person or what one or a couple collection of crazy people do. I hate to say crazy, but mentally whatever unstable people do. Whereas when white dudes do it, we're going to study this person, and he's not. It can't. We gotta make sure that this doesn't happen again. It's a
You
failure of
study
society.
them and then they have a Netflix documentary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Yikes.
Yeah, all right. I don't know. I guess moving on with the Women's March, I think we've covered the whitewashing and the racial divide there in Washington quite a bit. But my thought would move on to sort of the language of the people there. And that would be the same people who were upset at Trump for the locker room talk, for the grab him by the pussy comment, for all that kind of stuff, which is very fair because he's now the president of the United States. And to have those quotes be something on record that our president said, it's a little not so classy.
It's
but,
different.
But
Very
my
different.
one of the issues that I took with it was old Madge, Madonna. She got up there and her mantra,
As old as time.
Her mantra was, to our defectors, we say fuck you. Fuck you. And she repeated herself a couple times into the microphone to a crowd of women, men, and kids. And she was not the only one to bring salty language to the stage that day. And for me, I mean, we're sitting on a podcast that, I've had people in my family go, I couldn't get through it because you guys, the language gets a little choppy and, whatever. So I don't want to look like a hypocrite, but I think that on that platform, in that moment, screaming fuck you into a microphone when there's kids around, probably doesn't support your cause when you're trying to further something and say we want equal rights and we're marching for these positive things. And then
we also should not be policing language. I mean,
I agree, and I completely agree with that, clearly, because that's what this is about. We're here for an open discussion. We're here for that. But I don't want to stop her. I don't want to say she doesn't have the right to do that, because she does. But I think that there could have been a better choice for her to make. And I understand the sentiment behind the fuck you. I understand that's I love saying that because it's like it takes your anger and your frustration and everything and just fuck. But I think that she kind of shot herself in the foot there.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Nah, because she's Madonna. She's done everything. She's a cultural, international icon. This is
she
what she
shot
wanted to
herself
do.
in the foot when she called her little white son the N-word.
Well, wait,
Wait.
I can't argue.
Oh, you didn't hear about that?
I did not hear about that.
Yes.
I guess
Did
she
that
did.
happen?
Who wants to explain it?
Well,
Hang on, was that at the march?
No.
No,
This
no,
was
that was
a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
She-
I was gonna say, all right, I take everything back. I said about whitewashing. She's up there.
And she did not care that she did that.
Of course she does.
I don't care. I called my boy. I'm not gonna.
Well,
yeah.
to be fair to Madonna, she had so much black dick in her.
Okay.
Good for her.
Yeah. All right.
And she's from the school of Rodman, man.
But
Rod, man, get it?
yeah, so that was one thing that I kind of took away from it. And then also one of the other speakers, I couldn't even make it through this woman. I guess some woman had a viral Facebook post. She typed something up and it went viral in the Women's March community on all their pages and stuff. And they said, oh, we're going to have you speak for a couple minutes at the march. So this woman who's never been in front of a microphone before,
boy.
they literally introduced her. I don't know her name. I don't care to know her name. I'm not wasting brain space on it. But they said, here comes old what's her tits. And here she comes.
That's very non-chauvinistic.
I know. That's why I said it. But no, it's what's her name comes up. And she had a viral Facebook post, and she has a few words for everyone. And she went up and screamed into a microphone at, a couple 100,000 people. And it was just unbearable. I had to change the channel. I was like, I can't even listen to this. This is what they're, putting up there. But it was a very, I don't know. There were a few things about the Women's March that I thought they could have done better. But to me, it was still heartening to see that many people take to the streets for a common cause, whether or not we all agree that it was represented appropriately.
I still think it was a great start.
There you go.
I think that's the whole thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't perfect, but it's a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
There you go.
And back to the thing with Madonna screaming "fuck" over a huge crowd. What way is she supposed to go? What direction is she supposed to take then?
Right.
I think we're in a position right now where nobody really knows what to do.
Yeah.
So we're kind of all grasping at straws and just doing the best that we can. I hope, at least.
Yeah. So I guess that's a pretty positive end to that topic. And speaking of positivity, our guy from the alt-right is actually calling in now.
Sweet Jesus.
Hello.
Hello, Josh.
Yes, Joe. How's it going, man?
Good, good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are recording now, just so you know. We've been talking about the Women's March this past week, but before we get your thoughts on that, I wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast, and just again to refresh everyone listening, I reached out on Facebook to find a member of the alt-right, and I found one, and it's Joe, and he's calling in to sort of represent the other side because we haven't been able to find someone locally. You're in what? You're in Long Island?
Yes, I'm in Long Island. And also, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show because the opportunity to actually have the opportunity to spread diversity of thought is very, very rare in a lot of circumstances. So I'm taking this it's very, very honorable situation to come onto your show. So thank you very much for asking.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we do definitely appreciate you calling in. So, what would your thoughts on the Women's March be this past week?
I thought it was amazing. I really did. I mean, the idea to spread freedom of speech is definitely something that we take very, very prideful in this country. So, for the women to come out and express their true feelings and their fears, it's a great thing to express. I mean, I didn't like the fact that for example, a few things. Madonna, her little comment about blowing up the White House. That's a
All right.
pretty stupid thing to say in public because I'll get you a visit from the FBI or the CIA because you can't encourage terrorist attacks on the White House. Secondly, too, another thing I didn't like as well is that the discrimination against pro-life women. There was a report that a couple feminist groups wanted to participate in the march, and they declared that they were against Trump. They wanted to protest against him.
Right.
However, they were told that they weren't allowed to march or even, for example, say or represent that they were pro-life because of that. That was
I think
I would say very, very hypocritical because they were
well, I'm gonna cut you off right there, real quick.
Women come together. All women
Joe,
in America, but
Joe, I know you got. Hey, man, I know you got your points, and you're gonna get a chance to talk here, bud. But you gotta let us go back at that real quick. My take on that was that the pro-life women who wanted to march, they did show up and they did get a chance to do that. The only thing that happened to them was they were listed as a partner on the website that was sponsoring the march.
And they couldn't partner, yeah, exactly.
And they weren't allowed to partner, and that's because the Women's March, a huge part of it was for reproductive rights for women, to keep abortion legal, to march for that. So the pro-life stance, those people want to close the abortion clinics. They want to defund Planned Parenthood. And so when the Women's March, when that website said, hey, you can't partner with us, it wasn't so much you can't march and we don't want you there. It was, hey, you guys don't represent the values that we represent, and we don't agree on two of these very key things. So we don't want to be linked with you guys because we would be sending a hypocritical message in doing that.
I guess that's true, but at the same time as well, I also heard that they couldn't represent that they were pro-life. They couldn't hold up signs saying if we are pro-life. They couldn't get out there speech or their message. So it was a shame. It was a shame that they didn't allow them to do that. But hey, again, it was their march. It was their organization. So I'm not going to question their motives any further.
Yeah.
But also too, there was another thing. Another thing that caught my eye as well. One of the organizers of the march. I forgot her name. I believe her name was Linda, Soro.
Okay.
Soro, something like that.
Whoever she was.
Yeah. I can't pronounce her last name. She's
fine.
a Muslim activist. Supposedly there was controversy, surrounding her that she's a proponent of Sharia law. That was also very, very controversial. She actually, if you read her Twitter feed, it came up that she was promoting Sharia law, saying that,
All right, so
for example,
let's hop off and sidetrack there a little bit. I think that's a good point to sort of delve into with everybody here in the room, and that's the idea that there were a lot of people sort of being proponents of this march, and in doing that, Joe, just let me know if you want to talk, man. You got a lot of stuff going on behind you there in the feed, so I'm going to pull you down in the mix. But I think that one of the opportunities that I saw that got missed at the Women's March was the rights of women, not just in the United States, not just the Madonnas of the world, right? It was also the rights of the young kids who are being kidnapped, raped, having their clitorises cut off in different Muslim-controlled areas around the world. And I know that it's really incendiary, I guess, to say that. But I think that the Women's March did miss a real opportunity with that, and I would hope that someone else would jump in on this.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Good.
I agree. I definitely do.
Unfortunately, though, so that does happen a lot because a lot of these messages, like, that go around, like, whether it's, like, Black Lives Matter or, like, Colin Kaepernick, like, need, like, they're, like,
What did you think of that? Being that you're a member of the far right here.
Which subject?
Colin Kaepernick.
Or Colin Kaepernick.
Did you?
Okay. Well, anyway, first I'll start with Colin Kaepernick. Like, well, personally, I did feel disrespected. My grandfather, served in Korea. He almost actually got killed. He's like a landmine.
But wouldn't you say that him taking the knee is protected speech?
But as far as Colin goes, I mean, I don't I don't disagree with his message. However, though, I do disagree with his platform because, unfortunately, though, it did create controversy, and a lot of people were, very, very offended, especially, the military Gold Star families who said, how dare you, take a knee during the national anthem, we, sacrifice for this country, we're very, very, patriotic towards it. I mean, I wish maybe he could have, chosen a different platform for it because, unfortunately, though, too, as we were saying, before with the Women's March, a lot of times they didn't get a chance to get their message out because it was so controversial. With Colin, unfortunately, it was very, very, controversial to the point where he couldn't get his message out.
Hello, Joe.
He was talking about the protests, how he was disrespecting our country.
Gotcha, man. Hey, if you...
wasn't really paying attention to his message.
I gotcha, and I'm sure that you have a lot of stuff written down that you want to get to. But yeah, you're gonna have to give us a little bit more of a chance to jump in here.
I just want. Hey, again, this is Andrew from the
First time doing this.
Okay, I'll let you talk.
First time doing this.
All right, dude. I'm gonna start pulling you down if you keep stomping over everybody here.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
Okay, Joe, I want to thank you again for being on here.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you could make that point about Colin Kaepernick because ultimately there's a huge amount of military support for him. Furthermore, the way that this country is built up, I mean, we all had to protest just for, I don't know, being able to use the same bathroom, drink at the same water fountain, and as well as integrating schools. I mean, he had to protest. I mean, it brought attention to Black Lives Matter and the social injustices of this country. I mean, personally, I don't like Kaepernick as a football player, but after he did this...
Not a lot of people do.
But after he did this, I like Colin Kaepernick, the SJW. So, I mean, I don't understand, when and where would you have him protest?
Well, actually, I would have him, march. I would have him, do it, in front of, everybody, during the national anthem, because, like I said, that's very, very, very disrespectful. I mean, even though, actually,
but didn't your grandfather fight to protect that ability to be disrespectful? I really believe that both my grandfathers, great uncles, all the service members in my family and my friends who are abroad now, or just returning, I think that they all understand that when they go and they take that pledge to put their life on the line to protect the rights and stuff that we have here in the United States, I think they understand that a lot of people that are behind them, who they are protecting their ability and their right to take a knee during the national anthem. They're fighting to protect all sorts of speech. And I know that as a member of the alt-right, you, I'm sure, say some pretty infuriating things to people and say, I have the right to say what I want to say. And the most important speech to protect, I think, is controversial and unpopular speech. Because if you start saying, that's offensive, we can't have that, then it's a very, I hate the term, but it's a slippery slope to a blackout in language and in being able to share that sort of stuff.
I know, I'm not disagreeing with his right to protest. I'm just saying that maybe his platform, I would say, maybe distracts from the real message. Because I've actually had debates with a couple of people on this, saying that he's just upholding his First Amendment rights that the military fights for, like you're saying, and I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that maybe if he chose a different platform, for example, LeBron James, actually, he appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine with a safety pin on his vest. I
Right.
had absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. That was, like,
We
you know,
hate the
great,
safety
you know.
pins in this room. The safety pin is a baby step, man. That's kid stuff, if you ask me. But I wanna kind of turn the conversation to you and your beliefs and how you found yourself in the political position that you're in. Now, do you support Donald Trump? Did you vote for him, if you don't mind me asking?
I did, yes.
Okay. And what about his message got you on board with him?
Well, I would say his economic message. I'm very, very, like, you know, fiscally conservative. I'm basically the
But you'd like to
liberal
spend
who was, I'm sorry,
50
not liberal, millennial, who was liberal in college, but then once I got out of college, started getting a real job, I realized, you know, maybe I'm more conservatively fiscal. So when he came out and saying, okay, listen, I want to lower taxes, like, you know, for, like, you know, every single American, I want to lower the corporate tax from 35 to maybe 20 or 50%, create more, like, you know, job revenue. That's what I really, like, you know, came, like, to,
yeah.
like,
But-
the main thing.
But Joe, that's
So, yeah.
isn't that common generic political talk? I mean, what is his
Yeah, yeah.
actual economic, you know?
Common political talk? I'm sorry? I didn't hear that.
Andrew said, isn't that like common political talk? Like, don't name a politician that hasn't said, "Oh, I want to lower taxes."
Yeah. And create jobs.
And Joe, I'm just gonna ask you a technical question. Is there any way that you can get away from whatever's going on behind you? Because we're having a hard time hearing you,
Yeah,
man.
sorry, like, yeah.
Yeah, work.
No, I'm actually eating lunch right now. I'm sorry.
No, he's a hardworking man.
Yeah, I see that.
He wouldn't do this at work. He would not disrespect his job like that.
I just
Oh,
thought
no.
I thought he might
I'm
multitask.
on my lunch break. That's the reason why.
Oh,
okay.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that it's interesting for me to just sort of see the political journey of people, and I sort of found myself in a similar position when I went to school and when I got a job and when I did things. I found myself leaning a little bit more conservative as well, but I found myself I went from being a self-proclaimed anarchist in high school to being
Yeah, I've been there.
to being more of a libertarian, and that's where I ended up, because I just think that people need to get away. The government needs to get away from the people, and that's how I feel. And
yeah.
and so in doing that, I think that I'm pro-choice. I'm whatever gays want to get married, let them get married. Whatever anybody wants to do, let them do it. But for me, that extends to the Second Amendment and owning guns and all that sort of stuff, and that might be talk for another day. But where do you stand as far as the alt-right? Do you consider yourself a nationalist?
Well, as far as nationalists, I'm anti-globalization. Let's put it that way. I don't believe in one world government, kind of like what they're doing with the EU. I'm against the European Union. I think every single nation should have its own national sovereignty.
But isn't
that
up to those countries if they want to have they want to get together and have one governing body?
Well, that's just it though. The EU was never voted by the people. The governing bodies itself just decided after World War II. Okay, listen, we're going to get together. We're going to create the EU without our people's consent. So the big argument with Brexit, which was true, that listen, we never voted. The people never voted to be a part of the EU. So why should we why should we be a part of this?
Okay.
That was the big argument with this.
All right. And do you see anything like that happening in the United States right now?
Well, right now, no. But actually, before, I believe there was, a proposal, for the North American, alliance, Canada, United States, Mexico, were planning on creating their own type of version of the EU. That was actually shut down.
The North American Union, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I saw that Lou Dobbs report. I know.
Yeah, that was attempted, but luckily it was shut down. So yes.
And do you identify with people from the alt-right, like Richard Spencer?
Identify, what do you mean, identify? Well,
do you find yourself agreeing with his stances on a lot of things?
Stances on, say, immigration, illegal immigration,
Right, yeah.
In that stance, I mean, yes. As far as illegal immigration goes, I believe in the rule of law. The fact of the matter is, I don't want to support illegal immigration whatsoever. My grandparents were immigrants. They came here legally. They did it the right way. And, fact of the matter is, too, we have federal laws. If you come over the border illegally, you're breaking the federal law. So,
But what's the right way then? Like the way that white people came in the 15 and 1600s and came across all of North America and raped and pillaged the native people here?
raped and pillaged here. Are you saying? Are you referring to the pilgrimage that came over? Because unfortunately, there was no legal immigration system put in place. Like I said, I am about following laws. Back during the 1600s, this land was not a land of laws.
All right.
Technically, they weren't breaking any laws.
That's all right. I can sense in this room that there's a few people who have some things to say, but I want to continue on immigration and the laws that we do have. How do you feel about the proposed repeal of DACA?
You're talking about the Dreamers Act?
Correct.
Yes. Well, as far as the Dreamers Act go, I mean, I don't think it should be repealed. To be honest, I really don't.
So hang on. Are you sure that you're
alt-right? Because you don't sound
not
like you're
lining up.
alt-right.
Yeah. Are you trolling me, sir?
No, I'm not trolling you. It's just that because what?
I'm not
Because
nationalist. I'm anti-globalist, but I'm alt-right.
Because unfortunately, the misconception that if you're all right, you're against immigration, you're racist and thing. I am not against that whatsoever.
I hear you.
Because the
He's a
fact of the matter is,
millennial.
these kids, unfortunately, I mean, I don't blame them for coming over here because they didn't know what they were doing. They were 8 years old, and it's okay, what am I supposed to think or do? I'm not gonna hate them for that. Absolutely not, or say
I
get
feel
the hell
like you're
out.
just
Absolutely
very
not, no.
conservative.
And Trump
not
has been
super
considered
alt-right.
of removing DACA. He's never even said, listen, I'm gonna remove the Dreamers Act. He never came out and said that because he realized, listen, even actually during his interview yesterday, that I understand, that these kids, came over, when they were 8 or 10 years old, and they were just following their parents, parents' lead. They didn't know any better. What's more, too, they're not breaking any laws. I mean, let's put it this way, too. As far as, their parents go, I don't know. That's, a controversial issue because they did know what they were doing. I mean, if you come over the border illegally, you know it's against the law, you know exactly what you're doing, and you know exactly what the consequences are. So my thinking is, if you knowingly break the law, then
there's
consequences for it. With these kids, they didn't knowingly break the law, so it is very, very controversial with it.
So after your stance on that, how do you feel about anchor babies?
Say again?
Anchor babies?
Anchor babies, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Crucial issue. So in other words, if somebody who is 9 months pregnant, they come over the border, all of a sudden they have a baby to get the citizenship. Yeah, that is definitely. I would say that's definitely outdated because they are taking advantage of our laws to basically, get citizenship. And honestly, I think that is cool to take advantage of your children to, get, citizenship. Don't you think?
People come over here for a reason, right?
They do come over here for a reason, but it's not always the right reason.
Have you known many illegal immigrants in your life?
No, I have not.
Okay. I will tell you, I worked.
Actually, that's not true. I did work with a couple of illegal immigrants during my restaurant days.
So I spent a considerable amount of my working life before I got into radio, working in restaurants, and I worked for 15 years with some of the best dudes I've ever met in my life, and they were illegal immigrants. And I asked them, why'd you come here? How did you get here? What did you do? And the fact that these guys would tell me horror stories and how much money they paid to have some gang member walk them for a week through the desert with not enough to eat or drink, and they walked for a week to get to the United States just so they could try to send their $7 an hour back home to their family to build a house. That, to me, that's the American dream. For me, that represents the hardworking American more than the majority of these social justice warrior millennial types who, and even people in the alt-right who just believe that, I'm worth, whatever. I think that the fact that someone's willing to literally take their life into their hands and just sacrifice their lifestyle and come here to wash dishes or pour concrete or cut grass and do these labor-intensive jobs that pay shit money. I believe that is America. And I think that trying to stem the flow of illegal immigrants will not only negatively affect our workforce, but I truly believe it'll affect the character of this country. Because the people who come here illegally like that, they have more spirit, they have more will than a lot of people who are born here and take everything for granted. And it makes me fucking sick that someone who says he's going to cut taxes is now saying he needs, what was it, some insane
25 billion?
25 billion to
For a wall.
build a fucking wall that won't stop people from pouring into our country.
That the Mexicans
It's
gonna
just
pay
dis-
for.
It's just disgusting.
Well,
man.
Eventually.
actually, on that, like there are two parts of it that he has to do. One, the wall needs to be built because actually 60% of illegals actually do cross over the border 5 foot. Another 40% is visa overstay, so it's a two-part.
And they will
two-part
continue
system.
to do so, man.
It's got to. Hey, he's got to fix the visa system very very much so because fortunately there are a lot of visa overstays. I'm not denying that.
But
And as far as- and
but
as
you
far
do
as,
realize.
actually, can I just touch the note on the crossing over going through
I just gotta correct you real quick. Most of the illegals aren't the ones that cross the border illegally. There's the ones that with their education and their work visa ends up expiring. Yeah, and so building a wall is just stupid. It's illogical, and it's just going to be a huge tax drain on the American people.
So you're saying that the border shouldn't be secure? That the American people, or should I say the American nation, shouldn't secure their borders?
Here's what I would say to that. I think that we do absolutely need to do something about the flow of drugs and human trafficking into this country. But
Coyotes, exactly. Human trafficking that does come over.
Yes, but building a wall will not stop them because it hasn't. Building a wall is just a small challenge to them. That's keeping them on their toes. They'll figure out another way. They'll buy bigger boats. They'll get more shipping containers on Hanjin ships coming in from wherever.
Or buy land and build tunnels. I mean, ultimately, it's just not smart spending.
Right.
It's wasting our money.
No, I mean, honestly, building a wall isn't really enough too. You got to put in drones, motion sensors, it's like
Okay.
bringing it to the 21st century to do that. No, I
So
agree.
you're
now-
now you're off the wall.
So what would those drones?
They do have,
You're Michael Jackson. You're off the wall. I love it.
So what would okay? So
that does need to be addressed.
you think
without.
you like the idea of drones patrolling the border? Now, would those drones be equipped with any sort of armament? Awfully quiet over there.
Yeah. Actually, guys, listen.
This is
my
lunch
time
break.
is up. Actually, I gotta go.
All right. Hey, man. I want to thank you
Hey,
for taking
thanks
time
again.
for calling in and presenting us with another view that we didn't have represented here today. So I do really appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much, man.
No, I appreciate it. See you guys later.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Well, that was weird.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I hope the first thing I want to say is to anyone who's still listening out there, I hope that you were able to hear him clearly. I didn't know he was going to be in a restaurant or break room or wherever he was at, so it was a little choppy on the audio at points. So I apologize for that. So hopefully you could hear him as clearly as we could in our headphones. I hope that transcribed to the recording well. But I think that we definitely got to look, maybe not at someone from the alt-right, but I think
He just sounded very conservative.
Very
He's just conservative, yeah.
Like my friend's old dad who lives in the basement and smokes cigars and has a shit ton of guns. Who wasn't fucking World War II. He just sounds like a very
Where's
old
this-
conservative.
Where's this dad at? That's what I want to
Oh
I
my
want to
God,
hang out. I'll drink whiskey with that
He was
guy.
my favorite person. So when my mom was moving from Virginia down to North Carolina, and my friend's family was like, yeah, you can stay with us for finish school. So I go over. This guy, he rarely talked. He watched action movies, and he had a big bar built in the basement, and would just be like, all right, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to go to bed. But when I moved in, he and I would just watch movies all the time together, watch James Bond movies, old stuff. And
Nice.
he would talk about his guns in the war. And yeah, he was the shit.
James Bond
He was
movies.
awesome. He was
white
great. He and
man
I
fantasy.
got along very well.
There you go. And he was a white dude?
Oh, very think stereotypical old burly old white man.
So
that
apparently
kind of guy.
it was Tim Allen with white hair.
He was kind of grumpy, but also just you know, I feel like the gentleman we just talked to, like very conservative, but like willing to listen to the other side and like, you know, disagree and like actually have these
That's good.
conversations, which is really great. That's why I feel like this guy we just talked to was not alt-right.
Yeah. And when he first called in, because there's no cameras in here, you can't see our reaction. But when he was asked about the Women's March and he said, "Oh, I thought it was great," all four of us rolled back in our chairs a little bit and looked at each other like, "What?"
I tried to let him know that we all made that face, and I was going to ask him right off the bat if he really was a member of the alt-right, but I couldn't get a word in because he
talked a lot.
but he was to be fair, he was on his lunch break.
Yeah.
And, you know, he made time to call in, so that was very nice of him. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. I think the thing
Now let's trash the shit out of him.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Oh, the thing that got me, I think, was hearing alt-right.
You think Richard Spencer? You
think
my
Nazi.
new haircut? That is
Yeah.
what you
Think
think.
Nazi.
That new haircut is dope, though.
Thank you. I really.
For those listeners at home, Josh has the Hitler Youth haircut, if
Yes,
you
he
will.
does.
And I've been told that on the street before. But my thing is, I have a headline here that I screen capped on my phone, and it's from the Washington Post, and the headline reads, "Does this haircut make me look like a Nazi?" And they show my haircut and a lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
And you know, then Richard Spencer, of course, the infamous Nazi who was punched over the weekend, and. I thought, I need to keep my haircut because I'm not going to let some stupid political group, you know, cop my haircut and steal that and take that from me.
I'm sure that's what a lot of people thought about the Hitler stash.
Right.
We need to march for this haircut.
I mean,
We should have a men's march.
Chap-
we need a men's haircut march.
I mean, Chaplin kept his mustache even though Hitler was a fan.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, that's real.
And I mean, I don't know, man. I saw that and I was like, Nazi haircuts, really?
I mean,
Like,
it's kind of always been that way. I think it's just become more prevalent now because in my younger days, I had that same haircut.
Yeah.
Back when Josh and I first met, I wasn't the homeless-looking man that I am now.
Homeless never. Jesus.
Well, that's
Never,
the
Jesus.
effect that meeting someone like me has. I talk you into quitting your job to go out to California for a weekend.
No, I want to do that anyway. I just use that as a
an
gateway. I was
excuse.
like, hey, I'm going to California. I don't have time off. I quit. Bye.
You never fully recovered. I'm so sorry.
I didn't. It's been downhill since then.
Nice.
But yeah. So I saw that and I was like, man, the Nazi haircut, is that really a thing? So I opted to keep my haircut, and I will not let Richard Spencer and